All right, welcome to this week's live stream on Traveling on Everyday Spend. Got a lot of things that have gone on during the week to touch on. Look forward to being able to share this information with you. Want to obviously first thank each and every person that ends up being on the live stream as well as watching the recording. To thank you for taking the time to being able to watch this live stream as well as the long form videos and the shorts. It really means a lot. And the watching, the sharing, and the subscribing really means a lot to the channel. And I really want to always encourage you to please provide your feedback and your comments. It'll help me to provide a better product for you, which is what it's all about. So I just want to thank you all in advance for that. And I want to do a shout out to Matt Clausen. And I'll make sure to put a link in for him. He does an excellent job on his website or on his YouTube channel, bringing tidbits throughout the week. So if there's something that you're trying to look for a quick hit to be able to get some information, I'll put the link for his channel. He does a really good job of keeping you abreast in really kind of short, normally in some short period of time, periodically through the week. So I'll make sure to let you know about that. And want to welcome John. Thanks for stopping through, as well as Mr. Cool. Really appreciate you all stopping through. And as always, want to value you and your time this evening. So let's go ahead and get started and see what we're going to be covering today. We've got, look at the agenda. So as always, we take a look at any changes to the credit card intro bonuses. We'll also look at transfer bonuses for the month and touch on those. Etihad started a new free stopover program that should be very interesting if you are going to fly through the Middle East. They're obviously trying to generate more tourism there in Abu Dhabi. And it seems like we're hearing some pretty good things about it. So we'll touch on that. Next, we'll talk about some additional options for Uber that are coming out that were announced. And I think that a lot of them will impact everybody in different stages. So want to cover that with you. There was an interesting article that I saw about profit sharing for Emirates and Singapore, and I did some reading up on Delta and some interesting numbers. Their employees are thanking you very much for taking the time to fly with them, and I'll touch on what their profit sharing looks like. Bilt Rewards and Alaska Mileage Plan, obviously we know they've been building their partnership as being a transfer partner. They've now started their relationship as far as rent being done on the Alaska personal card that we'll touch on, and maybe what goes on now. Will Alaska look to have just an exclusive relationship with Bilt, or is this the start of trying to build out more relationships? So that'll be an interesting item to look at. Then we'll take a look at the Delta SkyMiles Elite status. There's a promo going on right now that if you're looking at accumulating the MQDs for Delta, this may be an option for you to be able to accumulate some points, and we'll touch on that. And then lastly, we'll also talk about the Citi Premier, Strata Premier, Prestige, Strata Elite. It's amazing how a lot of things have happened, but not a lot of things have happened. So we'll touch on that and some of the news that kind of came out, and kind of a stop and a start that the points guy had touched on early on as far as noticing something in their FAQ. So we'll talk about that as well. And as I was talking about earlier, saying hello to Matt, definitely, like I said, check out his channel. I'll have a link for it. Really provides kind of quick hitting, great information all throughout the week for you to be able to look at. So definitely take a look at his. It'll really help you throughout the entire week. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got first, as far as the credit cards, we haven't really seen a whole lot going on with the credit cards. Still not really seeing anything with American Express and Capital One. The Chase Freedom Flex, as we talked about last week, being able to go into the incognito mode, and we were seeing a lot of different options for the Freedom Flex versus the normal $200 that you would get on $500 worth of spend. We've seen groceries. So this is just a reminder, if you are considering the Freedom Flex, make sure to go into the incognito mode and take a look and see if, and go in there multiple times. You can go in and out, and you may see different offers, which I saw last week, and see if there's something that fits for you if you're interested in it. So that's the main one we've seen on for Chase, but definitely take a look at that. Then, of course, the Sapphire Preferred and the Sapphire Reserve at the 75,000 points continues. Great deal in regards to that, and making sure that you pick the right one that may fit for you, because they are different at their annual fee amounts and what they provide. So definitely take a look at that. And then, of course, the Citi Custom Cash Special Travel Offer has been a long-standing option as far as them going to 5% cash back when you're using the Citi Travel Portal through June 30th. But something to keep in mind for that. As far as topic 2 on the May transfer bonuses, we still end up seeing that we've got for American Express, Virgin Atlantic and Aeromexico. And then now, as I mentioned earlier, the Virgin Atlantic at the 30% that we see with American Express, as well as we see with Chase. These are not groundbreaking percentages. They're solid. But unless you've got, as I mentioned before, I'm not a person that converts flexible miles unless I absolutely know where I'm going and I'm ready to schedule it. And these percentages are not enough to necessarily speculate by any means, and especially when we've seen what Bilt has done periodically related to theirs, even though they've taken a break over the last couple months. But something to still keep in mind. But those are available if you need some points for a specific trip. And then Aeromexico is kind of a niche type of spot for their points. I've not flown on it. I've not used their points. Have really not really seen a lot of great redemptions for it. But once again, take a look at it if it's something that is going to fit for you. As far as Marriott Bonvoy through June 15th, I've mentioned there was a live stream that I did on March 17th, which was a full detail of Marriott Bonvoy back when there was the almost historic number of credit cards through Chase and American Express that had very good intro bonuses on them. And so I'll make sure to put a link for that live stream, and it's in chapters so that you'll be able to see and go right to it, and obviously be respectful of your time. And that's what I do with each of these live streams. I make sure to put chapters of them so that they're easy for you to work through. As far as Marriott Bonvoy, it is hard for me to see a case where I'm converting flexible points to hotels unless I just need to top off, or it ends up being like a Chase. I'm sorry, not a Chase, being a Hyatt, which has such a high valuation, and love to be able to go work with. And then as far as Citi, as far as the Accor Live is now ended for that, as far as bumping that up to 50%. And then we still have the Qatar Privilege Club Avios. And as I put there, please be reminded that this is directly through Qatar Airlines, not through the Citi program. So there is a delay of when you're going to see those points show up. So keep that in mind if you're looking for them, that you're not going to likely get them very quickly. Now, topic 3 is on the Etihad free stopover that was announced. And so basically, Etihad wants you to spend a day or two in Abu Dhabi. Maybe you're flying through Abu Dhabi to head to Singapore or the potential stopovers that they want to be able to keep you there for a day or two. You do need to book through the Etihad website, and there is an option to just select Abu Dhabi stopover option. It's not any additional cost on the flight when you're doing that, and could be an interesting aspect. Something I was definitely is on a list of mine to be able to go to see Abu Dhabi. Now the program, as I mentioned, his program will resemble ones from the other Gulf states. When you're looking at Emirates, Qatar, and Singapore, where they're basically under the country's flag, where they basically control everything. And so it makes sense that they would do this because they're also controlling the tourism and being able to look at that. So as I mentioned, free is always great for stopovers. A lot of times we're looking at different airlines that might only charge us so many points for a stopover, and this is a free stopover there in Abu Dhabi. They talk about lodging, but they don't specifically say what hotels are kind of part of this stopover program. But eligible travelers can spend 1 or 2 nights at what they call a premier hotel. But like I said, the hotel options are not currently listed on their website. And even if you don't take advantage of the stopover, they do have an Abu Dhabi pass. If you're going to be there for a short period of time where you don't stay over a day or two. And I'll put a link for that in the comments section at the end, but it's got some very good discounts versus the normal rates for different activities there to do, whether you're going to the aquarium, whether you're going to a zoo, or if you want to be able to get out in a truck and get out on the sand. A lot of different options. So I'll make sure to put a link for that just for you to at least consider. And I'll be interested if you're how you're feeling about this possibility of a potential free stopover. And is that something that you are looking to do? Does this motivate you to look to do it even more? So definitely put your comments in. That'll be very interesting. Now, as far as topic 4, we have additional options for Uber that's been talked about. Actually, I want to mention one thing that I did forget with the Etihad one. The one thing we don't know, and I saw this from the points guy, is that did not know if this applied to award travel where you're using your points. He was not able to find it. I cannot see anything that talks about it. So more information to come out later especially if you're looking at award travel to see if this applies or not. That's information that's not currently known. Now, as far as Uber, they're talking about a few different options now. So they're talking about the Uber shuttle, which is basically shared Uber X, which basically would have 5 seats to be reserved. And it's mainly anticipated to be used for select airports around different countries, excuse me, as well as for events, concerts, and such, which might be interesting, and I'll touch on that. The Uber caregiver, I thought was a really good thing as a person that has parents and in-laws that where my family's lucky enough to still have. This caregiver aspect is a really interesting, and I think could benefit a lot of people. Basically, you're able to add a designated person to your profile, and that person will be able to order and monitor your rides, as well as order deliveries and have 3-way chat with courier or drivers that are able to go on. And I think that is really important, especially when you're talking about people that have caregivers that may not have a significant other or family that's nearby. So really think that can be a game changer for a lot of people. And then interesting, Costco becoming a part of Uber. They're talking about select locations in US, Mexico, and Japan. I have a Costco membership, and if you're doing anything with Costco, everything runs through Instacart. So for me, in my location, there's no information about Uber at this point for Costco, and we've got a couple of Costcos in my vicinity. So I'm looking forward to that because if you've ever been to Costco, it is astonishing of how busy it can get really quick. Even if you go first thing in the morning or in the middle of the day. So I would be curious of how that'll go. So definitely something to keep in mind. And if you see anything at for your local Costco, definitely comment on it. I'm really interested in that. The other item is the Uber Eats list, and this is just specific to New York City, where basically you're going to be able to provide your food recommendations and discover recommendations from other people on that list. So if you're in New York City and you're curious of being able to exchange information about the different type of foods that you're looking at, might be something interesting. And then lastly, the Uber One expansion to college students at the discounted rate of $4.99 per month or $48 annually. I think that is not surprising. We've seen Uber One be marketed on student credit cards. Makes perfect sense for a student, potentially, if you're getting a discounted rate. And maybe your campus and where you're at, especially if you're on campus, may not have things that are right close to you that you might want to look at. So something to keep in mind for it. And I see that as far as a couple of comments, yeah, agree. Interesting changes by Uber, continue to expand their footprint. That is, and especially the caregiver is actually part of Uber Health, and I had not even heard about Uber Health at all. And I see that Mr. Kopul go to Costco for, yeah, we all love the free samples. And I mean, every lane you go by, there is food. And you can literally have lunch, maybe even a dinner, just walking around. So I am completely on board with that. So just as far as a few thoughts on the Uber shuttle, and when it comes to the airport, I'll be surprised if they'll get much business out of that. Having to have 5 people that might be going to the airport at a certain time, I think, at least for me, and I'll be interested in what you all may think, is that when I'm going to the airport, I have a certain time in mind of what I'm looking to accomplish. That because I have lounge access, I'm looking to be there early and to be able to relax and all. But there'll be people that if you're going to certain airports and you're joining this, even if you're able to save some money, where people you're at the risk of other people of what they're doing. So I'll be surprised of how well that works. But the event venues, that would make a lot of sense, especially if you're going as a group. They're going to have a partnership with Live Nation for certain venues this summer to roll out this Uber shuttle. And I think it'll probably be excellent for that. So something to look at for that. And then as far as the Uber caregiver, they'll be able to let you know if your insurance is applicable and can be applied to the charge. And then the remainder would go onto your credit card, as we've seen when you're doing Uber Eats and doing Uber ordering. So something to at least be able to look at. The grocery order aspect is supposed to roll out later this year, but the other ones are supposed to roll out very shortly. And then, of course, Costco, as I mentioned, the only option remains, for me at least, Instacart right now. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Uber Health sounds great for sending deliveries to parent. Completely agree. There's just so many people that are in need of assistance from caregivers, and anything that can be done. This is a technology game, and really glad to see something. We need as many options as possible. That's just the long and short of it. And so, yes, it is great to see. So things to keep an eye out for on Uber that will be coming. Now, topic 5 was the interesting thing I saw about profit sharing. And there was a few articles about it, and I was staggered by some numbers. And maybe it won't be for you, but I was blown away by some numbers. So Emirates, and we're just talking about Emirates Airlines because Emirates is under Emirates Group. So let's just talk about the airline. In 22-23, for that year, they actually had $2.9 billion in profit, not revenue, profit. This past year of the 23-24 year, they had profit of $4.7 billion. Now, when you talk about profit sharing, What they did with this year is they paid out 20 weeks of basic pay for their more than 110,000 employees, which was essentially a 40% bonus as their profit sharing. Um, I I've not heard of numbers like that. That's crazy. And so when you look at the employees, they do have a combination of normally basic pay and hourly pay. So that is something to keep in mind regarding it. But still, you're talking about getting 20 weeks of your basic pay as profit sharing, which was outstanding. Last year, they did 24 weeks of bonus pay. Now, obviously, before that, they end up having the issues with obviously the pandemic and all. So they hadn't seen any type of profit sharing since 2017-18, but a great 2-year run and a excellent bonuses that have gone to Emirates. And they don't actually have a standard set profit sharing program. This is just the airline providing those funds out. So that was interesting. And want to make sure to say, hey, to Lonnie, call me Lonnie. Thanks for stopping through. Really appreciate it. I know, but of course, everybody's got a lot of things going on. So just want to thank everybody for taking the time. Singapore Airlines, 23-24, they had a profit of $2 billion. It's the best in their 77-year history. The previous one was the year before, so it was a 24% jump. They gave their staff bonus nearly 8 months of salary. 32 weeks was their bonus pay. Once again, astonishing. Last year, when they had their previous best year, they did 6.65 months of salary. Now, they do have a profit sharing agreement as part of their union agreement. And then they went ahead and gave them an additional 1.5 months of profit sharing money just to say, we appreciate their hard work. So you're talking about over 8 months of bonus. So now a lot of times when we were talking about the profit sharing and the money and the profit coming from an Emirates and Singapore, as we talked about with Etihad, this is all under the country's flag. So you might think, are the numbers a bit skewed? They're probably not necessarily skewed so much as from that, but the biggest thing that they are able to do is two things. One is that all of the expenses related to the airport, as well as to normally who will be third-party caterers and other aspects that might go on, that's all under one umbrella that is subsidized. The second part is when you're talking about airlines and purchasing them, they are purchasing it under their country's flag. So we're not talking about what their credit rating is necessarily as far as a company. You're talking about the credit rating of the country. So they're going to get outstanding financing. And I think that is where we can all agree that the numbers may be a bit skewed for that. But the employees think if you've flown Emirates or Singapore Airlines, they thank you very much. So I was curious about an American airline, a US-based one. So Delta actually is considered to have the best profit sharing program in the industry. They pay more in their profit sharing than all of the other US airlines combined. I'm not talking about just the major ones. I'm talking about all other US based ones combined. In 2023, they had $1.4 billion in profit, and they shared 10.4% went to 10.4% of the eligible pay. Now that's based on $4.5 billion profit. So they gave 30% of the profit to the employees. If you compare that to American Airlines, American only did 1.1% was the profit share to every person. So Delta blows everyone away here from the US base. And I thought it was just interesting as far as, number one, the numbers that these airlines are profiting, which may not be too surprising, but also how much is actually going back to the employees for that. So just hopefully that's just some interesting information. And want to say hello to Sledge, another great content creator, does a great job on his with a lot of different information, a lot of experience here in the credit card game. So appreciate him stopping through. but great channel to be able to watch too. So that's kind of that for profit sharing. Now, as far as Bilt rewards and the Alaska mileage plan. So now we've already known that the Alaska mileage plan is a new transfer partner for Bilt shortly after the announcement of American Airlines leaving Bilt here in this upcoming month in June. So keep that in mind if you're looking at anything for American Airlines with your Bilt points. Time is running out if that is of something of interest. So we know that the Alaska mileage plan is going to be a one-to-one transfer. We did hear about the fact that it was going to be 3x Alaska miles per dollar when using a personal Alaska Visa signature, up to $50,000, but you are responsible for paying the 3% processing fee. And so that has now activated as of, I believe, yesterday on the 15th. Obviously, the same benefits that we kind of saw from American being with Bilt, we're seeing with Alaska, as far as this is their first partnership with a major points currency from Alaska. American Airlines, it was theirs essentially for Bilt, although they did it for a very short, hot minute with Citi, who actually has their cards. For some reason, it was not able to secure them, but that's another story. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that the Alaska mileage plan is finalizing their changes to their setup. If you would look at Alaska mileage plan before this year, it was a lot of long distance based aspirational aspects. Now it is distance based, so it's really more about the within a region to be able to get the best points for it. But there's definitely still some sweet spots to be able to look at. So when we look at this, as far as just some thoughts, the integration of the Alaska mileage plan continues, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see in about another month or two that maybe we see the big bonus that may come up to kind of jumpstart again what we saw for a few months here in the early part of the year, where we were seeing 50%, 75%, 100%, and more transfer bonuses, depending upon what tier you had with Bilt. So something to kind of keep an eye on. And then the other thing you're going to have to factor in as far as the rent in accumulating miles, because there's not any other kind of currency where you're able to transfer points. Alaska miles are hard to get. They're hard to accumulate. You can have the credit card, but normally you're kind of only doing the spending on it for the most part if you're trying to get that companion pass. But it's not an everyday daily driver type of credit card. So something to kind of keep in mind with it. So from the short term and the long term aspect, if you end up knowing that you are going to take a trip in the upcoming year that really is a good sweet spot for being able to have Alaska miles, then you may decide, if you're from a rent standpoint, that maybe that particular year it is worth the 3% processing fee to accumulate the Alaska miles with the Alaska credit card. You may find other months where you don't necessarily see that happening, and then you'll just do it through Bilt and only get the 1 point, but obviously no processing fee. So there is great flexibility in that, but each person really needs to evaluate their own situation really for that given time, because your situation may change. And I see Matt has given a thought. I don't think Alaska is going to be the only company with REM points through Bilt. That it's going to be interesting. I think that even what we saw from the interview that Lonnie did with Bilt, which was a really good interview, would encourage you, if you're interested in Bilt, to watch that interview when he talked about rent and he talked about mortgages. It was a good interview to look at. And you very well may be right, Matt. I think the great thing that we've been able to see from Bilt is that they're not afraid of trying new things to try to give us as the consumer and their to basically utilize their product. And so hopefully that will continue. I think that's something for us to kind of keep an eye on. And then, as I mentioned about the 3% processing fee, you're going to have to make your own determination of how valuable those points are going to be for you at any given time to, as far as that 3% fee. But don't forget that you do have to pay that. And then, is this going to be an exclusive relationship with Bilt? Or are we going to see where Alaska mileage plan starts looking at other currencies, flexible currencies? I think that's something to look at over the next year or so. I would find it very interesting if this is just a start or if this is just going to be exclusive. So be interested in you all's thoughts on that as well. For our next one, just to kind of touch on a quick moment about the next video that I'm doing that I'll be having out. It's basically going to be on the best balance transfer credit cards of 2024. And there is a lot, obviously, there's so much credit card debt that is permeated everywhere. And we all need, if you're paying, if you aren't able to pay off that credit card bill in full each and every month, which is what we obviously want to be able to do, and everybody encourages everyone to do, but things do happen. And so there's a lot of different options as balance transfer cards. And as the video will go over, from the basic to a lot of different rewards on it, from different time frames as far as how long it'll do and what the fees are. So if you are looking at the possibility of looking at a balance transfer, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. And it doesn't matter if you are new to balance transfer cards or a veteran in regards to it. There are so many different cards at this point, and you really have to really take notes and know what's going to fit for your personal situation on how much money you need to be able to transfer, how quickly you're going to be able to get that paid through. So hopefully that'll be something of benefit to everyone that has any type of credit card debt that they're not able to pay off in full. See, Matt said, I think the 3% is fine, especially with the rent spend being eligible for the companion pass and status points. You're exactly right. I think that I guess I sometimes discount the companion fee, the companion pass. I think just sometimes I'm selfish in regards to that. Where I got the companion pass and got the card without really knowing what my flights were. And unfortunately, where I'm at, Alaska only has one flight out of my community per day, and it only goes to Seattle. So if I want to go any place, I have to go to Seattle to then fly to wherever it is across the country. And so I'm probably not going to be able to use that other than probably a trip to Seattle, maybe bounce up to Alaska just to try it. So, but yes, it's definitely worth pointing out that if you're looking at those points to be able to get that companion pass and status means something, then it's definitely something that 3% is going to be worth. And I think that you should, if you're a person that's looking at the status in the lounges, definitely also pay attention to the fact that I believe that even if you get status, if you're based here in North America and you get status, if you're flying within North America, you cannot use the lounges for One World. That was something I touched on when we talked about the Qatar access for One World, whereas if you have it from a different country, then you can be able to fly domestically and use the lounges if you have one. And we saw the same thing when British Airways kind of did a similar type of program to kind of fast track you. I think it was a status match to essentially fast track you to higher status with that alliance. So definitely a lot of things to consider in regards to Alaska and what's going to be working for you. And the Wells Reflect and Citi Diamond Preferred feel like the balance transfer kings. You know what? It's interesting. They are to a certain extent because of how long they are at the 21 months. But I think that if you absolutely need that much time, I think it works out perfectly fine. But there are some other 21-month cards as well competing with them. And then you have some that are at 18 and 15 months, but then they provide you some more of the kind of keeper card, everyday kind of card with multipliers on it. So as I kind of put out in the video, that you really have to stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish and know what time period you need to be able to accomplish the balance transfer, and really to know, is the balance transfer going to allow you to pay off the entire balance, or are you just going to be able to put a severe dent in it? And that will let you know what kind of months you absolutely need to be able to accomplish your own personal situation. So, but they are definitely up there as far as being the kings of that area. Same for me in Alaska, where I live. Yeah, really disappointing for my situation. I just did not know. I just knew how valuable Alaska miles were, but not being able to fly. That's not the most ideal. So that's just wanted to kind of throw that out there, and hopefully it'll be beneficial to some people. And I agree, Lonnie, that the Alaska sounds nice. The one thing that I was unfortunate with the companion pass was I wanted to upgrade to first class, and that wasn't hard to do. The problem is that while it doesn't seem like a big deal that you're going to put in 15,000 miles to upgrade yourself, but that is per leg. So me flying where I'm out of to Seattle for my wife and I, that's 30,000 points. And then if I want for the next leg, that's going to be another 30,000 points. And you can really run out of those points pretty quick doing that. So, and unfortunately, I'm not a person that flies too much in economy. And I think that kind of goes with how everybody is and what they try to look at. Some people really look at the frequency of being able to fly and are cool with economy and premium economy. For me, I don't fly a whole lot. I'm not the best person that likes to fly as well. So I will normally look at some of the upper level ones for those times where I am flying. So, but all of those definitely something to keep in mind in regards to Alaska. And yeah, they are so valuable because you can't use them or let alone get a hold of them until now. Although I will admit, I did buy, they had a point sale maybe about a couple months ago, and I did buy some Alaska miles because I've been seeing so many very good deals that were related to flying on other flights and transferring Alaska miles to. So I had drained so many of my points for this upcoming trip that I figured I'll just go and buy some and just to have that in reserve. Not something I always suggest for people to do, but that point per point value with that sale and a bonus brought it under what the perceived value of it is. So something to keep in mind for that. To move on to the Delta SkyMiles Elite status promo that's going on right now. And if you're a person that flies Delta and you are looking for those MQDs, this may be something for you to look at. So the promo requires booking Delta flights, Delta vacations, as well as rental cars through the Delta portal. These bookings can be made, they started on May 13th. It will run through June 14th. And you must do the travel between May 13th and September 8th. You're going to earn one medallion qualifying dollar, which is the MQD, for every dollar you spend on the base price, not the fees, not the taxes, but the base price. That is something that if you got some travel going on, especially during the summer, you can accumulate some points pretty quick with that. Be sure that the SkyMiles account is in the same name as the person that has the credit card. It must match up. So I know some people may have a play or two, and they don't match up well as far as they may have the SkyMiles, but somebody's got the credit card. Make sure that the names match up. Just make sure to do that, or else you won't get that. It will take up to 8 weeks once your travel is completed for those MQDs to hit. So be patient for that to end up happening. So I wanted to touch on some of the ways that MQDs can already be accumulated. And you get 1 MQD per dollar that you spend on Delta flights. You get 1 MQD per dollar on vacations through Delta Vacations. You get 1 MQD per $10 spent on the Amex Reserve, and $10 if you have the Amex. I'm sorry, 1 point on every $10 spent on the Reserve, 1 point on every $20 spent on the Amex Delta Platinum. And then this year they had started the Boost, where you got kind of a $2,500 head start with Platinum and Reserve credit cards. So those are kind of some of the ways in regards to it. As far as this, a couple things to keep in mind. You will not earn the hotel points and likely will not get the associated perks if you have status. I actually did not know about this status promo when I was making reservations to fly to see my son for the Memorial Day. And I just knew that I had just recently gotten the Platinum card, so they have the Delta Stay credit. And so I was able to use the Delta Stay credit there where he lives. And when I mentioned the note of rates may not always be competitive at times, I will say in my particular case, for the hotel that I was looking at, and it was a Marriott, and because I've got the Amex Platinum, I have gold status. The points, the dollar cost for the room was very close. I think it might have been within $5 at the most for that. So, but definitely pay attention to your options if you're going to look at that to make sure that it's going to work for you. But it is an excellent opportunity for status if you value Delta status to be able to do that. Let's see, got a couple comments. And yeah, I talked about the Johns on that. Love some Delta. Where I live, Delta Southwest is a major one near me, and I do fly it, but very rare. Delta is always my choice if I can, and I will reposition myself to fly Delta to certain places. So I love Delta. Just have not normally done it on dollars. Almost always do it on points. Delta Stay credit is strong. It sure is. My wife has the gold business Delta, and we used hers for 1 day. I used mine for 1 day, and then I paid the other 2 days on the Platinum. It really, if you're going to use the Delta Stay credit, and that's once again only just one time, probably 1 to 2 nights, depending on how much your room is. It pays for itself. It's an excellent option. So, but just be cautious of paying attention to what the rates are on the portal versus where you might be able to look at. Both of your bookings with Delta Stay, the price of the room is within a few dollars of the hotel website. It is. I'm hoping that's going to always be the case. But out of caution, make sure to pay attention to it and be sure. But completely agree. If it stays that way, I'm completely on board with the Platinum card, or if you have the gold card where those Delta Stay credits come into play. I just wanted to kind of do a quick hit on so that everybody knows what these elite status really kind of gets you. So if you have, and so it takes 5,000 MQDs to get to silver status, 7 miles per dollar on qualifying flights, complimentary upgrades to first class and comfort plus beginning 24 hours before departure. And then of course, if you potential for Delta One, but not likely, day of departure, waived luggage for up to 8 travel companions. You'll get 5-star status with Hertz and 5 miles per dollar spent, $40 off a clear, and then priority wait list, and you get phone line priority ahead of the quote unquote normal member for that. If you get to gold at 10,000 MQDs, the mileage per dollar for flights jumps from 7 to 8. The complimentary upgrades begins at 72 hours instead of the 24 hours if it's silver. Wave luggage fees is the same except for the Wave same day confirm fees. You get that with gold. And then they bump up 1 mile per dollar to 6 for Hertz. And then if you reach to platinum, 9 miles per dollar on the qualifying flights. Now the complimentary upgrades can be requested as much as 5 days, 120 hours ahead of time. You'll get to President's Circle instead of just 5-star status with Hertz. And then you'll bump up to 7 miles per dollar. And then you'll get, for platinum and diamond participants, you get a choice benefit. You get to select one of those. I'm not going to, I'm just going to show this here, and you can, if this is of interest, I won't read through it obviously, but you'll be able to look at the slide. And these are all of the options that you can pick from for your one choice benefit when you're at that status level. And there's a few good ones, and I like the variety of them. So something to keep in mind if you're looking at SkyMiles Elite status and if you've got travel going on for this summer. This topic, obviously there's been a lot talked about the Citi Premier, Strata, some bit on the Prestige, and then also on whenever we'll see the Citi Strata Elite. And so I just wanted to kind of recap. I'm a person that has the Citi Premier credit card. Well, I guess now I have the Citi Strata Premier credit card. And so a couple things that kind of went through my head, as well as what I saw from the points guy that it mentioned, but ended up turning out to be incorrect. I'm sorry, frequent miler. I apologize. So the Citi Premier is no longer. They just converted everybody to the Citi Strata Elite. I actually did not know that was the case until I actually saw Matt's tidbits on it. I don't normally look at it because I don't normally use the card that much. It was a bit disappointing. I know that things can change all the time, but I'm not a conspiracy theorist necessarily. But if you're going to just kind of change everybody without telling anybody, I'm concerned on why you did it, that there's something down the line that's going to impact. Now, once again, not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but I do have a concern about that. Now, the Citi Strata Premier is essentially the same thing as the Citi Premier, except for they bring travel protection back, which is nice. You get the 3X on the EV charging to go along with just the 3X gas that was on the Premier. And then the 10X on the Citi Travel is now permanent, which even if they wouldn't have done the Strata Premier was most likely going to happen anyway. So not major changes, but they're fine since the annual fee is not changing from the $95. So just to touch on that. And then as far as the Citi Prestige, I had kind of started drafting some of this up. It was Frequent Miler that had noted, or one of their members had noted, that there was a frequently asked question under the Citi Strata Premier. And I ended up seeing it as well after the fact. And basically it said, can you upgrade from your Citi Strata Premier to the Citi Prestige? And they said that you basically should contact the number on the card to inquire about it. So I was originally thinking, okay, this might be interesting. And what ended up happening was Frequent Miler ended up getting contacted by a Citi spokesperson who said that the FAQ was incorrect and that was not supposed to happen, that there was no plan for that to happen. Now, once again, not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but how do you make a mistake like that for a frequently asked question about being able to upgrade to another card that is not available anywhere at this point, but it was in your FAQ? Something kind of seems a little interesting about that. People make mistakes all the time. Well, a word here, a number there, but that's kind of significant. So something to keep in mind, and we'll kind of see if that actually means anything. And then I would end up saying, as far as just touching on what the Citi Prestige is, and it's not one I've got, was a very good card. And I think it still actually may be. Yes, it got stripped of all of the travel protections. But when you're talking about 5 points per dollar on restaurants, airlines, and travel agencies, and then 3 points on hotels and cruise lines. Now, it's a $495 annual fee, but you were getting $250 travel credit, which appears, I'm not a person that has the card, but appears to be just as simple as Chase with their travel credit that's on the Sapphire Reserve. One thing I did not know about the card, which I would have found very interesting, is fourth night free, which you can use twice a year. So if you are going through the portal and you are booking 4 nights, you get the fourth night back. Now, I did not see where there was caps on how much it could be. I could be wrong. You don't find much about the Citi Prestige anymore, but I'm a person that loves the fourth night free on the IHG cards. Gets a lot of value for getting that fourth night. And I think that's a pretty interesting card. And I would have, if the upgrade was available, I probably would have seriously considered it. In the meantime, especially because whenever the Citi Strata Elite comes out, you're not going to be ineligible for the bonus because there is no bonus to move to the Citi Prestige. And I agree, Matt. Citi, just when you think that there may be a moment, and I think the last time I thought there was a moment with Citi was when they got American Airlines for a hot minute. And I was just convinced that they were going to be the long-term the long-term relationship with them and really catapult themselves. Never happened. And I'm still a fan of Citi from a trifecta standpoint, and the custom cash. I think there's some good there. And of course, the balance transfer cards are great if you're looking at it. But they just don't seem to be able to get out of their own way. And just doesn't even seem like they know what they want to do. So then, of course, we have the Citi Strata Elite. We heard about it in 2022 when they trademarked Strata Premier and Strata Elite. We don't have a clue of when it's coming out, apparently. And I was looking at it, well, if you could upgrade, what you would end up looking to do, and what are they going to look to do? Now, if they just kind of got just blanked out and got rid of the Citi Premier to create the Strata Premier, are they going to look at doing the same thing if you had the Prestige and now everything just falls under the Citi Strata Elite? Or are they going to let you keep that card? So I think that'll be kind of interesting if you're a Prestige credit card holder. So just kind of some thoughts for that. And that Strata Elite hopefully will be more than just the Prestige with the travel protections, so that we can see more from that. So just a few things on that. Want to make sure if there's any questions, any additional questions, comments, or any thoughts. I really appreciate the feedback from you all here on the live stream. The interactions and the exchanges make me better, make me think, and once again, try to make me a better creator working with you all. So, but I want to make sure if there's any other questions, comments, or thoughts about anything, because like I said, I want to make sure I'm being respectful of everybody's time. But outside of that, that is what I've got for everything. See, Matt, going to be hilarious if they auto update Prestige holders to Strata Elite with a different card layout. Yes, completely agree. And that's the problem. You actually feel like that's probably going to happen. And thanks, John. Really appreciate the kind words. And definitely, John, I'll make sure to have his link on there as well. John really does a excellent job on credit cards, and he was talking, and definitely check out his discussion about his upcoming Iceland trip, um, where not everything has to always be paid for with points. The whole thing of being able to travel for free or nearly free, sometimes is the case, but a lot of times there's leverage off of just being able to pay some things with points, and then for the to have a better vacation experience, to be able to spend dollars because you were able to save them. I definitely encourage you to it. I've not, I found it very interesting. I've heard about Iceland, but have not been there. But he kind of walked through kind of what his, how he got to put that trip together. And it was a very good look at a country that most of us probably aren't going to get to, but I thought it was interesting. So I want to thank everybody. Can't thank you all enough. I'm going to make sure to get this live stream broken down into chapters and get it right out. But thank you all so much for your participation. Thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And everybody have a great evening.